Good afternoon or good morning, High-10 George Realty. We're going to go over some of the changes or additions to the car form. I am going to share my screen and get started. I will be sending the link out to this recording along with the car forms we addressed. Okay. Hello. So while this is loading up, the next couple of weeks we'll be going over the changes so that anything that comes up, I'll be highlighting them on the actual car form and you can keep a copy for your record. What is this? One moment, let me share again. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're going to get started, and Peter is here to jump in with any clarification or questions you may have. So we're going to go over the RAD form, the Realtor Acknowledgement and Disclosure. This is a new form. So right here, it defaults that you are a realtor or you are not a realtor. So who can say they're a realtor using the logo realtor? Though it is those that are. Go ahead.
What did you say now?
Who can say they're a realtor? Did you raise your hand?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, so what does it mean? We're a member of NAR. We're a member of a local board, and that we're held to higher ethical standards. We have a code of ethics. So we are a realtor when we're a member of those two agencies. So you can let it default to I am a realtor since we're all members here, okay? But if you're not in the a local board or a NAR member, you have to check I am not a realtor and I'm not obligated to follow the code of ethics. Okay, so that's a big deal, really, that we're held to a higher standard. So the other disclosures, some of this you would not know initially, but you can find out later. So compensation from multiple sources. You may not initially have this box checked because you're submitting offers and you're thinking maybe the seller will pay it all, but maybe it doesn't come to that. Maybe it's coming from multiple sources such as the buyer and seller, okay, or the landlord or tenant. Okay, so that's when this would come into play. So initially you might not know that, but when you do know it, you update the form, okay? If it's coming from multiple sources. If it's just coming from the seller, you don't need to check multiple sources. So coming from one person. Present or potential ownership or interest in a property. If that is the case, you need to check the box. And that's also for special relationships. If you see here, it's going to say any person with whom I have a special relationship. What would that be? Girlfriend, fiance. You know, maybe you want to call a special relationship a friend you've had 50 years. So this is kind of, wide open, but make sure that if any of these are true, like you're a member of the family or anything of the property, you need to check the box, or if there's any special relationship that you feel is worth disclosing, okay? So referral fee or other fee received or paid to another broker. If this is the case, you would need to check the box. Sometimes we refer out, like I referred out a listing in the Fresno area. I got paid a referral fee. That's before this form. But anyway, I would have been the receiving compensation. My broker is being paid for, because broker to broker referrals are fine, right? So what agency was paying the brokerage, or my broker, you could check this box, is paying compensation to who, okay? And you must put either the compensation amount or the percent of the gross compensation earned, okay? and then everybody signs it down here. Okay. Referral fee agreement. They've just made this a little bit easier to fill out. So referring broker, this is the broker getting paid for referring a client or a customer. So they've just made the language a lot easier to follow. The other one was a little bit confusing. Representing broker, the broker that's paying the fee to the representing principal. So you fill this in if that's the case. And I didn't highlight everything. I'm highlighting what they've added. Properties or transaction covered. Now, when I was listening to the attorneys, this is very, very important. If you are working with somebody that will, like, let's say an investor that will be buying multiple properties, it defaults here on A only to the first property purchase. This agreement could be good for a year. What if they purchased 4 properties? You want to cover yourself. So you could check C for any and all property transactions specified during the term of this agreement, or for the following properties only. Maybe they'll say, I'll only pay you on the first 2 or whatever. But if it's like, one house, one person, you could probably leave it to default, but be very mindful of who you're dealing with when you're writing a referral agreement. Okay. So this is new. So that's why it's highlighted. Okay. The agents should both be initialing in the boxes here. And you see here, this referring broker and representing broker, this is an office manager or broker signature, because that is going broker to broker. You agents should be acknowledging and initialing down here, okay? The BRBC, buyer representation and broker compensation agreement, I'm only going over what's been changed. And you're going to see this on all of the listing agreements. The broker is paying a referral fee for the representation of a buyer, related to representation of buyer. Once you click this box, it's going to populate with that RAD form that we just went over. They have added this in all of our listing agreements, so that if you are dealing with any type of referral fee, it's going to be click the box, the RAD form will populate, and you fill it out. Okay. So here on M3, this is regarding the TOPA. So they've added this here, that it's subject to tenant rights unless primary or secondary residence or otherwise agreed by the TOPA agreement. So you see here, tenant occupied property attached. When you're writing an offer, you may not know that, right? So they've added C7A if the TOPA is not attached. So I brought this paragraph up to show you that 7A, it's telling the listing agent and the buyer and sellers that if the buyer intends to occupy this property as primary or secondary, unless otherwise agreed to in the TOPA, the unit shall be vacant at time of possession. And then it's telling here, so that means that it's embedded in the contract that if there's no TOPA agreement, the listing agent should be countering that in, because as a buyer's agent, you probably don't know that there's a tenant there. Maybe it's an uncle or something. So listing agents make sure that if there is somebody that's not on title, that is occupying space in the premises, even if they're not paying rent, please have a TOPA that is protective of all parties involved, okay? And it's going to remind them to counter a TOPA in, the listing agent, if they have anybody that's not on title living in that property. Of course, I'm not talking about minor children. They should put a TOPA into the counter to protect everybody, okay? So this one we went over last time, and when I did the RPA training, and I kept saying, I don't remember this. Well, I don't remember it because it is a new clause. This electrical system inspection and advice disclosure is advising them to have the systems inspected. The buyer can, and it is new, and the language is in there because it's required by the civil code now. So this is a new, E is new. And it's just
I have to remind everybody that, the insurance is very particular on the electrical panel nowadays, you know? So I think the first thing you have to check for older, properties that you should find out when is the panel, the electrical panel was installed. And if they have a very old, you have a trouble, to get an insurance, I can fetch it. So
Yeah.
The sooner you get to the electrical panel, the better, because it takes time to do, we do the electrical panel and it's expensive. Expensive.
How much is an electrical panel? Has anybody did that in just a small SFR?
You're looking about $5,000 to $7,000.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, that's on the low end.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering. Yeah. Okay.
Is required now, then.
No, it's not required, but they're giving you a paragraph here with civil code languages telling the buyer to go inspect it. And it even does say that it can affect
Yeah.
assurance.
Really?
Yeah, the insurance, as I said, the insurance is very important. If you don't have insurance, you cannot close escrow. So-
No,
I had to speed up the video.
but you could go without insurance on an all cash, but why would somebody put themselves in that harm's way? Right?
Right.
And so most people are having a loan, but we never recommend people go without insurance. But after we advise them, that's up to them.
You know what, I want to say this too. You know, that electrical panel, you know, they have a thing with the gas company. If you pay in each month like $4 or $5 dollars a month to the gas company, they have list of things that they will come out and take care of, your plumbing, all that stuff, just like the home warranty.
Really?
Yes, that's why when you brought that up, I wanted to tell you that.
Say it again? The gas
The
company?
gas company, check with the gas company. If you have electrical panels and stuff, but you have a fee each month that you pay, because I pay them. You have a fee, whatever one you select to pay. It even cover, I think, the panels too.
Oh, that's great to know.
And if you have your plumbing to break out there in the yard, out there, $4, girl, I checked off everything. My bill is a little high.
Excuse me,
I have it, not have.
we
Yes.
can't hear her very well.
She's saying that check with your local gas company because there are some fees you can pay extra and they'll cover some systems in your house. So in your property. So check with your local gas provider, gas company, and see if they'll cover anything if you pay an additional fee.
Oh, thank you.
Kind of like a warranty, home warranty, but yeah,
Oh,
it
good.
functions
Thanks.
kind of like that, but through the gas company.
How much you pay?
Got it. Thank you.
It's for something for each thing. And I got a lot of stuff checked off, so I'm paying a lot. So, but I'd rather pay for it and not have it. You see what I'm saying?
I'm saying you're paying 400 for each thing.
No, $4 and something a month. Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Per line item.
So you just pick out what you want to pay for. Even they told me, you said, you done checked off a lot of stuff. I said, let me take care of this here. Because no soon something break, I don't have the coverage, but if I have it on here, there's the coverage. You see what I'm saying?
And no deductible, nothing?
Huh?
No deductible, they come out and they.
No, if you're gonna have papers. They're gonna give you papers of everything that you signed up for.
Okay.
And you're covered, as long as you're making the payments through the gas company
Through your bill.
for your bill.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's great information for us to check out. So,
Yeah, it's good to know. 'Cause a lot of people don't know that.
They sent me a video. Yeah.
okay, so the residential listing agreement, again, they've added in that if there's a referral fee, you need to check the box and and the RAD form will attach and you need to complete that, okay? So this is the residential listing agreement. Peter went over this in one of the Monday trainings, but the digitally altered images is a big deal. If you are posting those types of images on the MLS, I was scanning to see how, last night, to see how other agents are doing it. Digitally altered, original, digitally altered, original. So they had double the pictures on MLS. So be very careful with your digitally altered, including on your brochures. You need to make a disclaimer if you're altering anything like that. So they said cropping isn't considered digitally altered, adjusting color a little bit. But if you're wiping out poles and lines and trees, no, you can't do that. Any digitally altered. So the one I was looking at last night, they went so far as it was staged. They put the room empty, the staging picture, the room empty, the staging picture. So they're very careful, which was good. Okay. So they have a whole paragraph that's new on photographs and internet advertising on your residential listing agreement. And this one is the MLSA Multiple Listing Service Addendum that attaches to the agreement. So I like that they added this marketing option. So it says the marketing option selected below shall start at the beginning of the listing period, or you check this box and put a date. Why would you need to amend a date? Because maybe you're looking to have professional pictures taken and you need some lead time to get that done. So if that's the case, go ahead and check the box and put the date in. Sometimes we have a photographer, we need to wait 2 or 3 days and then get them in. So make sure you're putting the date that listing is going to start. Down here, begin marketing the property to the public under full exposure, including the MLS. You could check that and put a date. That means that you are going to let your office know that you have this, maybe for 3 days or 4 days or whatever you stipulate in that date box. And then you will go full exposure on the full market as of that date, meaning MLS, all of the other platforms, okay?
Misha, may I do something too, like with the photos? Do you guys have a photographer that will work with us to take pictures? Or do we have to just still get our own photographer?
We have some.
We have them on our list, right?
Yeah.
And then Rosa has one, I know one, and then we have it on our list. So we'll show you that.
Just go to their website. Oh, the resources, the vendors.
It's good to have a photographer that is a real estate agent also.
Yeah. The seller property questionnaire. So I like that they added this on number 5. So that's saying, are you the seller aware of any reports, disclosures, maintenance, estimates, surveys, things of those natures? If they check yes, it's telling you that you can provide those documents in your possession to the buyer on a receipt for reports form. I think it's a lot safer, and I'll show you why when we pull that form up. So if you do check yes and you are providing these documents on behalf of the seller, I think it's really good that you do a check the receipt, provide them a receipt for reports form. And I'll show you, they've simplified it a lot on how to use it. Okay. So the SPQ added 17D to cover civil code regarding gas-powered appliances. That is the language that's required by the civil code. They have added that in. And then on other, this is civil code language too. When I was watching the attorney, 18B, any residue from smoking, tobacco, nicotine, vaping, are you aware of anything in the property like that residue? Okay. So these cover some requirements from the civil code. So they've added those into the questionnaire that the seller will need to answer. I like this, the way they've lined out the receipts for reports now. I think it's very useful. Reports being provided, buyer or seller, who's being provided those reports. Let's say it's the buyer. So you see here, list of reports provided to buyer or seller that were ordered for this transaction. So you're going to go down and check whatever you did on this transaction, prepared by, dated, ordered by, and you're going to check buyer or seller. Okay. So that's really nice. Now you come back here and they have, if the seller had a list of reports from previous transactions or otherwise in seller's possession, they made this super easy. So you're going to put the information here on what you are delivering, right? And then if you are delivering anything via link, you check all reports delivered via link, or anything that you need to say that you're delivering via a link, okay? So they've made this form nice and easy to use. And then you're going to check either the buyer or the seller, the party receiving the reports. Whoever's receiving them is going to acknowledge receipt of the reports checked above. Very nice form. I think we should be in the habit of using it, and they've simplified it a lot, okay? Solar advisory and questionnaire is all redlined if you look at the new form. So they've completely amended this form to make it more current of what's going on in the solar market. The whole form was almost all redlined. There is something I want to show you that may seem confusing at the back. Okay. So the seller's going to fill this out on what they know. Here, 4 and 5. So you see if they check 4, it says solar power system is owned and conveying with the property. So they check that if it's all paid for, and then they answer the questions. But this could also be true here. 5, solar power system is subject to a power purchase agreement. I have seen this. That means that even though the solar system is owned outright by that property owner, there could be additional contract for additional years where you have to purchase your power through that provider. So I've seen it. I didn't know that it was called a power purchase agreement, but I have seen that in a contract. So one could be true or both could be true, okay? So just make sure that they take their time and fill this out to the best of their ability. Attach copies of the contracts, okay? Septic inspection, well inspection. Okay. So they've made a very important addition to this. If we look at this under D, the certification. So septic inspection and allocation of the costs. Okay, if in order to obtain the certification of that septic, additional costs are needed to repair the septic tank or system or otherwise bring that system into compliance under applicable law, further written agreement regarding the costs and liability will be required. If agreement is not reached within the time for removing the buyer investigation contingency or loan or other contingency, then either party may cancel this agreement. Because you know that certification, if there's things wrong, you're not going to get a certification, and it could cost quite a bit of money sometimes, okay? So that's a really nice feature to this form that they've added, more protective of all parties, okay? Seller counter offer, all counter offers. In fact, let's see, what was the change here? Oh, okay. So if there's a late acceptance, let's say the seller after this thing had expired says, oh, you know, I want this. Your clock starts at the last date, which is here, when the seller accepts this late counteroffer, okay? So all time periods in the agreement begin upon delivery of this late acceptance. So I would use that date for the counting of days. I would consider that acceptance date if it's the last one, okay? So they added that to make it so you don't have to guess when the clock is going to start on your contingencies and things, okay? Wildfire disaster advisory. I was watching and reading, it said even if it's not in a high or very high fire zone, what if it's a very treed area, mountainous area? You might want to provide this form, you know? So if it's in one of those treed areas or you see a lot of vacant land around it with weeds, probably you should provide this form just as protection for everybody. So post-closing issues is something they added, and it's advising the buyer that if they've agreed to buy the property and bring it into compliance, they may be subject to fines and enforcement actions if they don't do it, may incur increases in property insurance premiums or cancellation of insurance policies, and they will be responsible for making disclosures concerning the compliance with the property's defensible space laws when reselling. So they added that as a warning to the buyer to be aware.
Yeah,
So-
that's very important for the buyer because
Yeah.
the buyer, sometimes they don't know they have a residual responsibility. So you have to, as a buyer's agent, you have to inform the buyer that, hey, if you don't clear this up at this point, before closing escrow, the buyer will be responsible for the compliance later.
And I kind of think it's an open check, right? Because you don't really know the cost because you
Yeah,
haven't
don't
went
know.
through it.
Yeah, because,
Yeah.
so the buyer has to be aware of that, then, you really have to clarify it, otherwise, after the close of escrow, they may have dispute, whether, a buyer said, I didn't know about that. And you,
And why didn't you tell me?
yeah, why
Yeah.
didn't you tell me?
Of the people who lost their home on fire, do they really know what's happening and there's fire at home? No, but nobody really knows. You can only have a disclosure, no disclosure.
No, but we're talking about compliance, for.
Yeah, but then like, if
But
it
it
applies in
has
the
nothing to
future,
do with, whether
transaction.
you have a fire later. And if it's a fire later, you cannot,
Cause on that, he's talking about, how the fire form, was it WFHD or whatever? There's a box that it says the buyer's gonna take responsibility.
Exactly.
And normally that's what you're gonna see, even in a very high fire zone, but like Peter's saying, it's an open check. You have no idea what it's gonna cost to bring that property into compliance.
Right.
So I think you should, if you're in, and it's even telling you here, optional disclosure, if it's in a treed or forested or weedy area, give them this report, this advisory, because the city could come around, which we've all seen, and say, red tag that lot, get the weeds off of it, right? So make sure you're giving this disclosure. I don't think it hurts, okay? Just to be, and then explain it to the buyer. Unsolicited offer attestation. I'll explain it the best I can. This is in effect until January 2027. There are civil code penalties if you don't comply, and I think it could go up to, let me read, $25,000. So what are we complying with? You see up here on this form, and we are going to be requiring this going forward. Any properties in these zip codes, we're going to ask you for this form on zip, on Sky Slope. It only pertains to the zip codes in these zip codes. And this is for fire areas, or I think areas that have been damaged.
This is, my zip code is on here too.
Yes, so any properties, even if they're calling it unsolicited, but even let's say you made an offer on a property that was on an MLS, please just do the form, because it needs to be recorded with the
Yeah.
title, okay?
You have to check the zip code.
Yeah, up here.
Sometimes the zip code, is not the zip code that was burned down. It just, this is
In that area.
affected by the burn
Right,
down,
right.
so you have to be very careful about that.
Okay, I got
And
you.
if you don't have report that, as a station, then later on,
That's the thing, how we're gonna add
Let's
this,
see, it's not
and how we're
even
gonna add all these
the
zip codes.
fire area, but the smoke, oh my God.
Yeah,
The smoke
that will affect the other areas that are adjacent to the burned down area.
And it's the buyer and seller must sign this before
Yeah.
title transfer.
Yeah,
So this is very serious. That's what I was talking about, Anna. This very serious. And you will see for residential property sales, the zip codes are listed up here for you to check your properties. Go ahead.
because the buyer has a whole year to rescind the contract.
Yeah, this is big deal.
Big deal.
Are you saying that this isn't going to affect until?
No, it's in effect until 1/1/2027. This is new. We have to start complying now.
Say they banned the
Now,
property.
I hope that escrow would be advised of this. Maybe we reach out to our favorite escrow officers and send them a copy of this form,
Okay.
whoever you think,
Then the buyer has.
like Moy, whoever else.
Right. it's-
So be careful on this and check the zip codes. Yes,
Michelle,
Oscar.
I'm still a little confused about this form. What is this about?
Peter can better explain it.
What's that? I'm still a little confused about this form. What is this one?
This form that the buyer and the seller both attest that this is not a solicited. This is not solicited, in other words, that the buyer is not soliciting the seller, you know. Even though the seller is not willing to sell it yet at that time. In other words, if the seller is the burnt down area, and somebody will come in and they say, hey, I want to buy your property.
Yeah,
And the seller didn't say anything before, so that is unsolicited. Right? Because you didn't tell the listing agent that you're going to sell the property. Somebody approached you
yeah,
and want you to buy your property. And if that's the case, then it's not good, because you have a law that prohibits that. And then now they have the form saying that, hey, you know, it is true that I did not submit it because of the situation.
So what I'm understanding you to say, Peter, say if I'm an agent and I'm selling this person's house, and I'm not selling this person's house, and somebody come in and ask the owner, they want to buy the house,
Yes, you cannot do that.
you can't do that.
You can't do that. You cannot directly solicit the seller saying that you want to purchase that house.
Yeah.
because that house has been burnt down, or because the house is within that
fire zones.
fire zone,
I
zip
see.
code.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And
It has to be voluntary,
Where the
want to
owner
sell by
wants
the
to sell.
seller, yeah.
Okay, I
And they have a
got you.
listing agent and saying that, hey, I want to sell the property now.
But don't mistake that you still don't have to do this form, even if it was listed. We want the form. It
Yeah.
says it right here that you're attesting that it wasn't like you were hustling for an unsolicited.
Right.
So please, don't miss the form. And escrow should know. We'll reach out to some of our escrow companies and let them know. Okay?
So, it's basically, so they don't take advantage of people that.
Yeah,
That's
it.
exactly.
Okay.
Take advantage of the people who are affected by the wildfire.
And we don't want to lose
Well,
licenses
well-
over this, so be careful and file.
When we do door knocking, we usually say, hey, we're a buyer. Can we say something like that, or are we?
I never say that.
You cannot do that.
No.
You cannot do that. for
Not in that area.
Area.
Well, there might not be
You
a door
cannot
for
do
you.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
be
if-
careful.
If you're knocking door, you have to be careful too.
Yeah.
Usually,
Yeah,
they will
it's
give
easy.
You're not allowed to do that.
Don't knock there.
So what if you wanna,
Yeah, don't knock down the area.
so what if you wanna get a listing in those areas?
Yeah,
Yeah, you can get a listing,
Right.
yes, you can do that.
Yeah.
But that's different. This is the seller voluntarily give the listing to the agent to sell their property. That's fine.
Yes.
But you cannot go in and, say that, hey, you want to sell your property because it's burned down?
Yeah, and I got a buyer. They'll pay cash.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's a no-no.
And at the time, they might take it.
That's predatory is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Probably that's how you do it.
Yeah, because it's predatory, right? They're considering it predatory.
I don't know, I take advantage of the situation and want to purchase the property that was burned down.
We
you know?
can't say that.
And the law particularly protect those seller or the owner of those properties. that burned
Very
down.
interesting.
What if you buy it a market value?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
You offer it above the market value, you can't do it.
Can I say something, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay, so unsolicited to me means I did not approach them, but they called me, and they
If
want to
they
sell. Is
call
that the
you,
case?
Yeah, that's fine. But any of these zip codes, Sylvia,
Yes.
if you're working a deal on that, you're in escrow, you must have this unsolicited offer attestation.
Mhm.
And it's gotta be before the transfer of title.
You cannot-
So escrow should lead you on that, but you have to have this form in
Okay,
the
okay,
zip codes
Yes.
listed.
But
thank you.
Yeah, on any deal, okay?
Yes,
if you get a listing, that's fine.
Yeah, but
If you don't have a listing and you want to represent a buyer to purchase the property, that's a no.
no, and if I got a listing and the buyer come, only me, hey, you represent me, together.
That's
Yeah,
fine,
That's fine,
that's fine.
I think I have that.
And it's telling you to seek legal counsel, buyer and seller, on number 4. You have to give the form in, okay? So property showing and representation, this is non-exclusive. This is that form we probably don't use that much. It's like if you're out with open houses with somebody. So the only thing is, again, they added, is there any referral fee? If so, check the box. The RAD form is going to populate. And that is the end of this session. I will keep going next week. And, but I hope you guys learned a couple of things and can use them in your business. I will go ahead and send out the forms highlighted so you guys have a copy to the rest of the brokerage who's not here. Are there any further questions for Peter?
Michelle, it's
Yes.
Sylvia again, sorry. Can you just touch slightly on what you said about the septic? That was good in this forms now again?
So on the septic, they, that form, they added a paragraph or a little box that says that if the certification is gonna take, a lot of money or time and the buyer and seller can't agree to who's gonna bring that septic into compliance, they have a right to cancel within the contingency period. So sometimes they'll say, oh yeah, we'll get you a certificate, but they don't realize that it's going to take $10,000. I'm just picking a number, right? To bring it into compliance or whatever. So they've made that form more protective on the septic tanks.
Got it.
But if
Thank you.
anybody's ever needing to use that form, come see me. We'll look at it and we'll fill it out together. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so if there's no other questions, we're going to conclude and we'll continue next week. Thank you all very much. Have a great weekend, and we're here for you, Peter and I, our staff members. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.